All right, welcome on in to the Sapien DAO Town Hall. I'm Ankit Bhatia, one of the founding members of the Sapien Nation, here with Rob. And yeah, many of you have know about what we're doing with Sapien. We're looking to launch a network state and a republic of DAOs. And this is obviously an extremely ambitious project and requires a lot of help from our community to get right. And we're super excited to actually be shifting over the past few weeks from a company format into a DAO. So we've been sort of setting up the DAO in Wyoming and getting everything sort of set up there. But the mission is still the same. Looking to build the sort of infrastructure to unite and empower DAOs, and that's obviously a new word. It has half to do with infrastructure and other half to do with the culture that we're looking to build in the Sapien Nation. And we're excited to get things going with this town hall. So I don't know, Rob, if you want to speak a little bit to what your thoughts on this.
This transition is a long time coming. We've been thinking in terms of DAOs and trying to build for DAOs for a long time now. So it's about time that we start operating as a DAO ourselves. And I think that's really essential, really, to what we're doing. We won't be able to achieve what we want to if we're not operating in this manner, doing so transparently, because we're trying to build for the public here. The network that we're trying to build is a public good, public infrastructure, as Anka was saying, for all the DAOs that we're trying to bring together in this network state. So really excited to get started in with these town halls. Keep up.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, and a big part of our thesis here is that DAOs are just not going to make it in isolation. They need to be able to leverage each other's network effects, and we need to make it simple to do so. So really sort of pro on DAO collaboration and making it as simple as possible. And again, like something like the Republic of DAOs is the best way to really give DAOs a real voice in what's being built. So super excited here. Today we'll just to kind of go over the agenda at a high level, we'll be going over this Sapien Dow Dashboard. It's going to be this public dashboard that kind of gives you an overview of what's happening with the Sapien Dow. We'll be taking a look at the Sapien D work that we've been setting up, which we'll start launching bounties from, and the committees as well will be run from there. And then, yeah, we have a few proposals to go over today. One is the Constitution, and another one is the staking model for the token. So yeah, we'll get right into that. Cool. So let me go ahead and get started. We'll dive first into the Dow Dashboard. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Cool. Can you guys see my screen? Or Rob?
Yep.
All right, sweet. So this is a public dashboard of the Sapien DAO. I'll actually drop the link in the Meet chat as well, if anyone wants to follow on there. But essentially here you'll see an overview of the assets that we're holding in Treasury, as well as links out to where they're stored. So we'll essentially we have a sort of a fixed budget with USDC that's in the process of being transferred over to Gnosis Safe. And then we have the SPN token, the native token for Sapien, stored on a few different multisigs, as well as a sort of total reserve supply there. Here you can see like the current reserves, the monthly budget, and the runway that we're projecting here, assuming a fixed treasury value. So yeah, this is going to be sort of updated on a bi-weekly basis as we're sort of growing as a project and as a nation. So the first thing, I guess, to dive into is the Sapien Nation OKRs and what we're looking to do here. The first objective that we're making sort of significant process through is just laying the.
Yeah, just for context, explain what an OKR is.
Oh yeah, so an OKR is an objective and key result. One thing we've been seeing in this space is, it does take a lot to align people, and sometimes it's not very clear on what the goals of the DAO are. So we think OKRs is one of the best ways to, make sure that we're all on the same page as to what our objectives are, how we're going to be measuring them, and what are the specific initiatives that we're taking to achieve the objectives. So all this sort of is encompassed underneath the Sapien Nation, and ultimately helping sort of launch this network state. So through this process, I mentioned we've been sort of transitioning into the DAO. We've been shutting down the company. We've been setting up, DWork. We've been updating the landing page. We have a public wiki you guys can check out. We've been working through a constitution draft, and we've been looking at the tokenomics for the whole network. So a lot of this you can just see tracked here. Additionally, the other sort of big objective here is to start launching some of the initial committees in the Sapien Nation. And when Rob starts sharing the DWork page, we can dive a little bit more into what we have planned there. From the perspective of the DApp, as we sort of transition to this public goods infrastructure, we want to make sure that the DApp is open source. So we'll take a look at our GitHub repo that we've put together. And then also the main sort of focus for this quarter is to look at the staking interface and how people would be able to stake SPN and participate in the governance of the DAO. So that's those are the high-level plans there. Additionally, we believe in radical transparency here. So you can see the SPN distribution of the team, of advisors, of investors, and everything is sort of going to be updated here. There's a few things. This is still in a draft format, but we'll be updating this pretty regularly. Other tabs include the OpEx costs for the DAO, payroll, transaction logs as we make transactions from the nodes to safe, and as we start issuing badges through the DApp, we'll be tracking that as well here. So that's the dashboard, publicly available. So we can go into any questions later, but yeah, you guys can all take a look at this. And with that, Rob, I'll pass it off to you to take a look at the DWork.
Cool. Thanks, Ankit. So here's the Sapien Nation DWork page. For anyone that's not familiar with DWork, sort of a task or project management software that also includes things like token incentives and token gating. So the idea is that we're going to use DWork to incentivize contributions using SPN and USDC across all the various operational spaces that we have here. So we have a few different spaces corresponding to committees within the network state focused on different objectives. So first off, the technology committee. So the goal of the technology committee is to fund and develop the Sapien Network DApp, and in addition to develop the SPN token economy. So the committee is charged with identifying and implementing Web3 tools to facilitate discussion, curation, and creation of tokenized content and knowledge on the network itself for DAOs to form their knowledge repositories so that they can most effectively collaborate together. So all of the development here is going to be open source, with our core team taking on the main responsibilities of development and shaping the product. So there's a few main things that we're focused on corresponding to the OKRs Ankit was talking about. Mainly right now looking at the SPN token model. Really looking into all the details there needed to deploy a staking model and governance model that work together well for everyone in the DApp. Next, the nation building committee. So Anka was talking about this idea of infraculture, building the infrastructure and simultaneously the culture. The technology is the sort of the infrastructure. The nation building then is really the culture. So here we're going to be trying to do a lot to, spread our culture, share our ideas, and bring like-minded people into the nation to really keep momentum going with this thing and to build this thing together. So the first thing that we've been doing there is focusing on the Constitution. So the Constitution is this document that outlines how we envision the governance of the network state working. So we really want as much feedback as possible from the community, from all of you, and from anyone else that may be watching this recording, because this is a really enormous task, and we definitely can't do it alone. I'll pass it off to Ankit to look at the other committees we have going.
For sure. Yeah, Rob, you just tab into the media committee. So yeah, looking at the media committee, this is our committee that's just focused on increasing visibility for the Sapien Nation, the DAOs that form the Republic, as well as other sort of partner network states that are building this space. And here we're looking to really produce a lot of content on crypto Twitter, press releases, podcasting, huge fans of podcasting, really putting together like short form content to really get people outside of even Web3 excited about what we're doing here. So meeting them at TikTok, at Instagram, wherever they're at, to start really spreading the idea of network states and it becoming a very real thing today. So just looking at some of the tasks, the first few things we're looking at are the State of the Nation MVP, which Meme Brains is working on, and you'll have a draft on this soon. The other big project that we've been discussing internally is the Metaverse newspaper, which is this collective sense-making project. And we're looking to, hey, like, if you have a nation, you got to have a newspaper, and it's got to inform the citizens of the most important things. So that's something we're really looking to fund and push forward. And then going into the operations committee, this is sort of the meta stuff, but all the things that we need to do as a DAO for funding, managing, overseeing activities. If you go into the board, Rob, you'll see all the different tasks that we've been doing, establishing committees, all these things. Again, very reflective of the OKRs that I shared earlier. And super excited with these committees. We definitely want to make them very permeable, very fluid, and you can think of them as like sort of horizontal slices across different DAOs, right? So if there's many different DAOs that are looking to get more media visibility, we want them to all participate in the media committee and sort of use their collective, purchasing power to do more than they can just do individually. So yeah, we think committees is like one of the best ways to do that. So I think with that, that's a lot. I don't know, Rob, if there's anything else on D work. Otherwise, we can open up for like a brief Q&A.
Yeah, I think that's all on D work for now.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, and just please raise your hand, just as Matt so courteously did, and we'll start answering some questions. So Matt, all you.
Hey guys. Well, first of all, excellent job. I've noticed a huge progression in the way that you guys are communicating the vision of Sapien over the past year, and it's very coherent, and it's very easy to imagine where we're headed and why we're specifically doing this. So hats off to you guys on that. Let me just bring up this link here. Okay, on the spreadsheet that you sent a link to. something I noticed on here was the treasury balance, and then specifically the treasury runway. Now, you're calculating your treasury balance based upon current market price, but the one thing that's not taking into consideration is liquidity. So, for example, if you theoretically sold all that to use the balance for operations, you wouldn't be able to get that amount, because I mean, I think if you sold like $250 based on current market liquidity, that would reduce the price of Sapien by I'm not sure, but quite a bit. And so in reality, the runway that you're projecting probably isn't as large as we're thinking. And so you mentioned token incentives in terms of governance. Did you guys talk about token incentives in terms of like providing liquidity? Because I think that's going to be important if we're projecting things like runway and lifespan and stuff. So
yeah.
First of all, does that make sense?
Totally. And
Okay.
I'll always appreciate you asking the tough questions and, keeping us accountable here too. But yeah, you're totally right. The intent in here isn't to just like just purely sell SPN for to sort of fund operations at this stage, especially so early. So what we'll present, Matt, is a proposal for SPN and a VSPN, and the liquidity incentives that we want to introduce to actually make this self-sustaining. So that's a separate proposal. Maybe after that we can revisit this question, and we can think about the whole treasury with respect to the tokenomics there.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good.
Cool. Cool. Any other questions on anything we've shared so far, or comments? All right, let's keep moving on. So the next thing that we're diving into is a constitution. This is extremely exciting. Let me just make sure this URL is working. I'll drop this in the Meet chat as well for people who want to follow. This should shed a lot of light as to how we're looking to govern the Sapien Nation. And yeah, as Rob mentioned, this is still in draft format, so really appreciate everyone's input on this. Cool. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Alrighty. So yeah, this is available at docs.sapien.network, and what you'll see here is an initial draft of the Constitution. And yeah, we just want to take some time to go over this, look at some of the articles and the amendments, and just kind of lay this out as an initial proposal. So with that, Rob, pass it to you to get started.
Yeah, thanks, Ankit. So to start this off in the preamble, really wanted to contextualize the network state, what we're doing at Sapien within the broader sort of political, economic context of what's going on in the world, and really try to highlight why this is something that's necessary, why the network state is actually essential to addressing many of the problems and issues that are really wreaking havoc on our current politics and economies. And yeah, that starts with this first point here, that many of the problems that we face today are affecting many different nations and really don't stop at any one border, and so are incredibly difficult for any one nation to address. We think that the network state is really essential to trying to solve problems on a large scale like this. We need to be able to facilitate coordination across borders, across nations and boundaries. Another key point here is that the complexity of our economy just has risen and keeps rising. And it's really gotten to the point where it's beyond the ability of many of our current governments to understand or regulate. And that's gets to the point of why we're structuring the Sapien Nation as a republic of DAOs. It's because we want representation from the builders, from the experts that are helping drive forward technology and helping us shape the future. And we believe that they have so much power, and with that power comes responsibility to help advance the public good. The third point, the existing arrangement of our government and economies has just led to drastically increasing wealth disparity and decreasing representation of the working class, the people who build our society. And we have to recognize that these people deserve representation in the governance that we're creating. Our governments have really neglected their responsibilities to manage public funds, and in a large way have sort of offloaded that onto private institutions who have really squandered a lot of public money on enriching the few. And that is not something that we can tolerate, and not something that it's something that will make it impossible to serve the public good in the long term. So something that's really important to us. Again, emphasizing that our current governing bodies can't keep pace with exponential technologies and have been really prone to manipulation by corporations. Large portions of our government has been captured in this race to the bottom. Even representation of our communities has been sort of destroyed through gerrymandering. We no longer have accurate representation of what a community really thinks, what is the will of a community. So all of this really adds up to why we need this network state, why we need to create something new that is able to address many of these problems and try to be truly representative of our communities, of our tribes, and our DAOs that are going to build this new world. So this new network state has to be sovereign. It has to have the social, economic, political, and legal ability to act in a united manner and cooperate internationally. It needs to represent the will of all citizens, regardless of their national origin, and recognize our collective ability to address problems that affect us all. It needs to equip citizens with tools for democratic governance, for group sense making, and collective action. It needs to recognize that public companies or any institution of large scale involving the public has a responsibility to act in the interest of the public good that is greater than their incentive to make profits. And these companies, institutions need to be held accountable to this responsibility. We need to recognize the sovereignty of our communities and do our best to represent their voice and their will in shaping the world that we're building. We need to ensure that public funds are put toward the benefit of the public good above private interests. And we need to prioritize the survival and flourishing of our species. So that leads us into the proposal for the governance of the Sapien Nation. I'll hand it off to Ankit.
Cool. Thank you, Rob. So yes, what we are proposing with the Constitution, obviously we take a lot of inspiration from the United States Constitution. We do not want to throw the baby out with the bathwater here. There's a lot of things that they got right. And in particular, one of the most important things was actually a system of checks and balances. right? Where we keep the different parts of the government keep each other accountable, and we want to emulate that within the Sapien Nation itself. So at a high level, like this structure we're envisioning is an executive council, a parliament structure with an upper and lower house, as well as a judicial. And yeah, I'm just going to go over this at a high level, and of course, it's available online for people to jump in and contribute to. So what we're envisioning for the parliament consists of basically the Hall of Ambassadors and the Hall of Sapiens. And you can think of the Hall of Sapiens as people who hold the vote escrowed version of SPN, so VSPN, which we'll introduce in this next proposal. And the idea here is that this is representative of the most number of people, and it is trying to be this way for people to participate directly in the democracy. The Hall of the Hall of Ambassadors is the representation that we'd be getting, that we'd be giving to DAOs themselves. So the proposal here right now is that each DAO will receive 3 ambassador seats in the Hall of Ambassadors. And how the DAO chooses to select those ambassadors is completely internal to the DAO itself. And we really want to make this as inclusive as possible. And we want to make sure that the executive council is not really playing a role unless there is a tie in the Hall of Ambassadors. From there, the Hall of Ambassadors also is responsible for any impeachment cases. You know, if the executive is not doing their job, they'll be actually hosting the trial. Diving into elections, we want to make sure that this is all being done on chain. So we'll be setting up snapshots for each of these halls, and want to make sure that we're giving the Hall of Ambassadors sort of ultimate authority to expel any sort of DAO that might be like violating the, you know, say like the Constitution here. And yeah, in terms of compensations, we're proposing right now that the ambassadors of each DAO will be compensated in SPN tokens. And yeah, we need to sort of work through that, what it looks like. All the bills, of course, will be snapshot proposals, open source on GitHub. And the powers, we're still looking to sort of update this, but really making sure that the parliament is able to make all necessary and proper laws to actually execute this. And yeah, let's, I think from here, just dive into the executive council. What we're looking to do here is actually elect not just one president, but 3 people to the executive council, which will actually have a term limit. And the way that the council is going to be elected is as follows. We'll have 1 being elected by the Hall of Sapiens, 1 being elected by the Hall of Ambassadors, and 1 by the council itself. The Hall of Sapiens will be, what we're proposing is a quadratic vote based on the VSPN tokens that they hold. For the Hall of Ambassadors, each DAO will have 1 vote, and you can think of that sort of analogous to Senate. And the executive council will have to cast a unanimous vote on the blockchain to sort of select the next person for council. There's a few tie-breaking cases here for those interested in how that would work. And yeah, we want to make sure that we make it as inclusive as possible for people to run for the executive council. And this includes the possibility of pseudonymous members of the executive council. So from here, just outlining some of the responsibilities of the council, as well as keeping everyone informed on what's happening, as well as how impeachment would work. The judicial, of course, we want to make sure that there is a system of laws being implemented here. So here we'd actually be interested in potentially some decentralized justice protocols like Kleros, and really just thinking about what's the best way for laws to actually complement smart contracts. And really, this is a place of active discussion that we need to work through. Article 4 dives into sort of the inter-DAO relationships and like what we imagine the rights that should be protected there. And then Article 5 talks about the amendments and how we can actually amend this constitution itself. Now that this is on GitHub, it's going to be as simple as a PR and then like a snapshot vote as a Sapien Nation. Article 6 talks about the supremacy clause. So this is just the nature of laws. So I think we'll have to all agree to the sort of judicial hierarchies within the Sapien Nation. And 7 speaks to the ratification of the Constitution. From there, Rob, I'll pass it right back to you if you want to just go over the amendments at a high level.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Ankit. Yeah. So the amendments is sort of starting our Bill of Rights and recognizing the important things that we have to hold as rights, as sort of inviolable things, such that we can advance the interests of our citizens and our DAOs. So first here is the right to sovereignty. And sovereignty really is the manifestation of the will of an individual or a DAO. And that DAO as a group has the right to personhood, including rights to full autonomy, existence, self-determination. And that the sovereignty of the DAO derives from all of its members, and each individual has the right to choose sort of where their sovereign will is divided and how they're represented in all of the different groups that they're a part of. This is, a really, really important point, and it really undergirds everything that we're doing to serve the interests of DAOs. This is at sort of the foundation of why we think it makes sense to do a network state in the first place, why we have the right to like create a currency and to create and manage our own economy for our citizens. Second one here, the freedom of information. Again, a really important one, because information really is power at the end of the day. We believe that our citizens should have the right to freely share information so that they're able to make the most well-informed decisions that they can. We believe that any arbitrary restrictions on sharing information can lead to abuses of power. Keeping people in the dark makes it so that they can't make the most well-informed decisions for their own benefit, for the benefit of their families, for the benefit of their communities. And thirdly, the right to economic freedom. We believe that people have a right to decide how they're spending their time, their energy, and they have a right to put their work, their labor towards advancing things that they believe in and things that they value. This ties back in with the sovereignty of DAOs. People have the right to contribute to causes that are meaningful to them, and they're exercising their sovereignty and their will through contributing to these things, not just through voting, but voting with time and energy. So we believe that everyone has the freedom to choose how they do that, including DAOs themselves. So these are the 3 most important things that we want to help advance for our citizens, for our DAOs, when building this network state together.
Awesome. So with that, I'm sure many of you are also curious as to how the tokenomics will evolve, and we reference this in the Constitution around the SPN. So let's just dive right into that next. So here is a high-level proposal of how we want the tokenomics to work, and this document will also be made public soon. And again, the way we look at it is that SPN is the utility token for the Sapien DAO, and we're going to be using that for governance and voting and funding operations. And here you can just sort of see a high-level summary, total supply of 500 million, and sort of even the code, if you want to look at that. This has been live since 2018, and yeah, fairly standard ERC20 contract here. Here you can see the token distribution, what it looks like. And yeah, so what we're proposing here is a separate contract that was popularized by Curve Finance, the vote escrowing model. And in it, you can basically time lock SPN to be used for internal governance. And basically, users, like people, will receive an amount of the SPN that's linearly proportional to the SPN locked and the time period. So 1,000 SPN locked for 1 year will receive 1,000 VSPN, and 1,000 SPN locked for 2 years will receive 2,000 VSPN. And this value decays linearly over time at the start of the time lock, at a sort of proposed time lock of 5 years. And as we mentioned, the VSPN will be used for the governance decisions within the Hall of Sapiens. And Matt, this goes to your earlier question, how do we incentivize liquidity? But yeah, what we're envisioning here is a portion of the SPN will be allocated towards the rewards pool for liquidity mining for those that provide liquidity in SPNE, as well as any of the other SPN pairings. And by providing liquidity, they're able to stake their LP tokens and be able to receive these boosted rewards up to 2.5x rewards. And yeah, one of the most interesting things that we are introducing here is actually pairing the SPN token with individual DAO tokens. And as we've been talking to, all these DAOs, one of the biggest issues is actually helping them launch their own token economies and doing so in a sustainable manner. And by providing them with an AMM for any DAO that has a signed Sapien Nation passport, we can actually kickstart liquidity for their token. And we think this is essential for them to be able to, compensate their members, to be able to align interests, and to be able to actually accomplish their mission. So those are the three key utilities there. Just taking a brief look at a diagram, you can also see how the token will be going in. It'll be time locked, giving you governance rights and the ability to direct into which of these pools, which of these DAOs are receiving the SPN tokens. Rob, is there anything else I'm missing here?
I think you got it.
Okay,
Matt,
sweet.
you have a question?
Yeah, just real quick. The time lock, is that kind of 5-year lock set in stone, or is that just kind of standard?
So that's the maximum. So you can
okay.
There'll be intervals you can lock for a shorter duration.
So you have, or I would say we have, control over how much time people would need to lock their tokens to participate in any governance roles. Is that right? We can kind of decide what that is.
Yeah. And the idea here is the longer you lock it for, the more voting power you get, basically.
And then in terms of, so to my understanding, and maybe I don't understand it very well, but locking your tokens for governance, would that restrict you from using those same tokens to provide liquidity? Because if they're locked, they're sitting there, they cannot be used for any other purpose. So if that is true, you would have to give up governance in favor of liquidity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is something that we're still actually sort of looking into the technical details here. Ideally, you would be able to lock liquidity tokens as well, so that like you can still provide liquidity and have governance rights. We're still ironing out the details here.
Because if you were to lock the, I see an issue that if you're locking it, then that's kind of defeats the purpose for liquidity, because liquidity is meant to, make the token more liquid by pairing it with a tradable currency. And so if you're unable to move these things, then you wouldn't really be able to use it for that. So
it's a little tricky. We're definitely trying to balance the incentives between the liquidity providers and the VSPN holders here.
Awesome. Well, sounds great. Please continue.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think that sort of covers the tokenomics at eye level. There's trade-offs in either way. We can actually talk a little bit more about this. We'll start a tokenomics thread in Discord as well. But yeah, I think that's pretty much what we wanted to present today. We had a partner proposal, but unfortunately they couldn't make it today. So we'll probably be doing that in the next session. So yeah, we have about 10 minutes. So just want to open it up again for comments, questions, feedback on anything that we presented. So. Yeah, Matt, go for it.
I promise this is not a token question. And but yeah, as I've been listening to you guys, it's a beautiful system that you're creating, and I don't know if most people are really understanding here, like what the magic of this is. And what I'm gathering from everything is that you've made an analogy to the Constitution of the United States and basically a republic of DAOs. And if you take this back through history, this is akin to uniting the states, or in this case, uniting the DAOs. And you could argue that this is pretty monumental for the crypto industry, because we have all of these individual DAOs operating in their own space with their own awareness. And when you're bringing this together, it's like the crypto industry having an awareness of itself, because now we can collaborate in a way we've never done before. So by creating those connections between the DAOs, it allows us to communicate and collaborate in a way that we haven't been able to do. So anyway, this is more of a comment than a question, but this is remarkable. And it's definitely one of the things the crypto industry is lacking. So the governance of this is what you're describing is very complex, almost too complex for a single DAO to utilize. But where it comes into being a very, very valuable is the complexity of this governance allows you to scale much greater than an individual DAO can scale. In the example of the country. So anyway, hats off to everybody, and this is really exciting. Good job, guys.
Thanks for that, Matt. We really believe that this is the right way to do it, and I think we can. There's really no limit on scale here and what we can achieve together. Latif, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a suggestion, and I first of all I just want to second Matt's comment. I think besides the two of you, I think I'm the oldest person associated with this project for over 5 years, and I remain very excited, and all the progress that I see is absolutely, I feel, in the right direction, and so I'm very excited about that. One suggestion I wanted to make, with the tokenomics, is that I think we need to reward the initial DAOs that have come onto our platform. So again, I mean, I know these committees are being formed right now, but I think we should reward the DAOs with SPN tokens from the reserves, who are here currently, and they can decide what to do with it, if they want to use that as a mechanism to attract more members, and we should sort of put out a bounty program for new DAOs that also want to come onto our platform. And I think that will do multiple things, along with sort of what Matt was talking about. Is right now SPN is pretty illiquid. So I think whatever we can do to get the liquidity and momentum back, and reward these DAOs that are helping us sort of build the platform, giving us feedback, I think we need to reward them. So just a thought.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Latif, and we're really thinking about we've been throwing around the idea of a UBI for DAOs with a signed passport. So there could be a component there that they'd be receiving SPN as a part of that. We just want to be very mindful about how we're setting this up with respect to the overall token economy for SPN. So there needs to be this stability that like a vote escrow model brings. But we want to make sure that the supply, the buy and sell side of the economics are functioning as expected there. But from there, like even one of the main reasons you'd want to lock up the SPN is being able to vote on the DAOs themselves. So like if you take a look at vCurve or vBow, you'll actually see that with locked up VSPN, you'd be able to direct the DAOs that would be getting more liquidity. And that's going to be tremendously helpful to their local economies. But yeah, like we're really excited about this. And like, I think, yeah, we're taking what vCurve has essentially done with DeFi and rewarding all these protocol liquidity for protocols and applying it to DAOs, which are in desperate need of being able to actually kickstart their economies. So yeah, we're on the same page.
Hey, another idea in conjunction with Latif's comment is, you've talked a lot about the passport and what the passport will enable DAOs and users to do, and kind of help kickstart a treasury. It seems like the passport is a very valuable thing, and so that's kind of another offer in addition or replacement to giving DAOs SBN tokens. Give the initial DAOs passports as kind of a token of appreciation and kind of first mover advantage on the platform.
Yeah, that's a great point, Matt. That's actually something that we've been doing already a little bit. I think we can do a better job communicating, especially recently. All of the benefits of the passport have really evolved, and I do think we have a really compelling offering there. So I think we can, continue to do that and continue to communicate that.
Awesome. Any other questions, comments? Yeah, it's a town hall. This is for you guys. All these.
Hey, I'll just jump in again and say hats off again to you guys in terms of transparency. Just everything that you're sharing, this is more open than you've ever been. And I would go further and say it's more open than what I've seen a lot of DAOs do. And it's really comforting to see that, because I think everyone that's attracted to crypto is a little bit traumatized in terms of trust, since it's
Yeah.
such a automated, trustless environment. It's all something that's really important, an important value to us all. So this is huge, and I think it sets an example as a republic of DAOs, and kind of sets the stage on what our values are and how we want to operate. And yeah, this is exactly how a DAO should operate. And so great job again.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Matt. Couldn't agree more. And at the end of the day, trust is probably the most important value. And it's so hard to gain trust, and it's so easy to lose it, So I want to make sure we're doing a good job just keeping everyone up to date, and making sure you guys see what all is happening behind the scenes, and making sure that it's accessible to everyone to actually jump in and help out. Because as Rob mentioned, like, we're not going to be able to do this alone, right? We have been able to, build a lot of code. We've been able to, write a lot. We've been able to push out our ideas, but to actually get this to where it needs to go, like, we all need to pull together on this, right? So let's, this is a call for whoever is listening to this, like, hey, we need you, Anon. Like, we need we need your help, we need your community to join us in building the Sapien Nation. So, yeah.
Yeah, just wanted to echo that sentiment. Anyone out there, come help us do this, because we need it, and this is something really important. And yeah, thank you, Matt, for keeping us on track in this journey, and thank you everyone else who's in this meeting for coming here, listening to us. It means a lot.
All right. With that, we'll wrap up the town hall. Hope everyone has a great weekend. See you guys soon.
See you guys. Have a good one.
Yep.
Thank you.